In this very first chapter, we see 4 people, because Bhagavan Krishna has not yet started. Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, Sanjaya, Arjuna. It is the same conditions, it is the same environment. Each one has a very distinctly different set of reactions. Dhritarashtra is in shock. जब कभी शॉक पूरा नहीं होता तो लगता है शॉक. He had desired that Bhishma should be there because the Kauravas will be protected by only one person, and that is Bhishma. So he strategized, put a very good effort that person who would actually challenge Bhishma on that battlefield of the 45 lakh people that were there was only one person, and that was Arjuna. So he unleashed a mind game war on Arjuna. He did not anticipate that Arjuna's mind would be reset. He did not anticipate that anybody would recognize that there was something wrong with Arjuna. A stealth attack on Arjuna's psyche. It had the effect. But that Arjuna also had abhedya kavacha of his friend Krishna. So Dhritarashtra's reaction with what happened on that battlefield was a sheer shock. He did not anticipate Bhishma to fall down on the battlefield. Duryodhana, if you had asked people in Hastinapura and Indraprastha, they would have said good things about Duryodhana. Earlier, when I used to teach the first chapter, it would be so difficult for me to explain that the kind of pampering that Duryodhana did to the people was making them ineffective. It is very difficult to explain. Now my life has become easy. I have enough examples. See, the government's governance is to provide a secure environment for the citizens, provide opportunities for their welfare, education and safety. But if the government starts doling out on various schemes, free money, Kejriwal was not the first one. Jagan Mohan Reddy was not the first one. Duryodhana was the first one. Because Pandavas had really done a very good administrative job, that in a very short time Indraprastha had become the center of business. So their coffers were full, which they lost in the game of dice. So in the 13 years, what did Duryodhana do? Sit on that money and spend it lavishly. Free money given. So you would not know the character of Duryodhana before the war. During those 13 years, you would not understand what his character was. On the battlefield, when somebody does not express gratitude and respect for their earlier generation, you may not agree with them. You may not want to go with their ideas. But when you are insulting them and disrespecting them, your character is revealed. And to such respected ones, he says, Anyecha Bahavashuraha Madarte Tyakta Jivitaha. All of these other warriors, they are on this battlefield, they are ready here on this battlefield to give up their lives for my selfish cause to be achieved. Are you ready to give your lives? What colossal selfishness, self-centeredness, that he is very boldly boasting that is what I expect from people around me, that they are ready to give their lives for my sake, for my selfish desire to be fulfilled. Crookedness of Dhritarashtra fails and he is still trying to scheme. Duryodhana, seeing the same situation, his inherent qualities of selfishness, self-centeredness, where he was expecting that everybody come here onto the battlefield to give up their life for my sake. Sanjaya, looking at the same situation, he says, Dhartarashtranaha, of the children of Dhritarashtra, funnily or sadly, he is giving this commentary to Dhritarashtra himself, the crooked sons of Dhritarashtra. And then with regards to Arjuna, he says, Kripaya paraya vishtaha vishidantam idam vachaha. He was overwhelmed with compassion. Whereas Arjuna, though he was shaken up, though psychologically he was feeling very challenged at this moment, even in that kind of a dire state of existence, he was overwhelmed that for establishing dharma should so many people be killed. If I give up my life, will this war stop? Then I am ready to give my life. Look at the difference between Kaurava mindset and Pandava mindset. Even in his utter sheer fallen state, he is thinking of others and their welfare. But as I said, Arjavat Arjuna, very straightforward, no crookedness, simple-minded Arjuna, where he himself says, Bhramati vacha me manaha, nimittani cha pashyami, viparitani keshava, nacha shreyo pashyami, hatva svajana mahave. That my mind is shivering, it's almost collapsing, it is going into a complete chaotic thought pattern. Gandhi vamsramsate hastat vakchaiva paridakhyate nacha shaknomyavasthatum bhramati vacha me manaha. In front of Bhagavan Krishna, he could have acted. Nani sab theek hai. He is confessing openly what he was going through. And then, in the next chapter almost, he says, Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha pruchhami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha. Karpanya dosha, that which Sanjaya called as Kripa, he is evaluating his self-evaluation is on point. He is not overreading himself or underreading himself. He says, yes, I have been overtaken by this cowardice. I used to be that person who would find solutions for whatever kind of overwhelming situations. But at this moment, my mind is completely filled with Karpanya dosha, Kripana dosha. Kripana, the one who is not feeling extremely filled with courage, but I see myself as a coward right now. That honesty is what Bhagavan Krishna liked in Arjuna. As I was saying yesterday, there should be at least one person in our life where, in utter sheer confusion, that person need not know that you trust them that implicitly. It is for your welfare. Because you know that their advice, their direction, their words will always be for your upliftment and your good alone. When in confusion, go to such one, seek the guidance, don't try to process it, just try executing it. It will at least kick us out of this state of confusion and dilemma. And Arjuna had, blessingly, Bhagavan Krishna for that. And Bhagavan Krishna, what a good teacher. What is the first sign of a good teacher? The ability to listen without judging. Listen compassionately, give them the room of trust and sheltered environment where they can express their vulnerabilities. That is the heights of trust, where I am not feeling scared or cornered in expressing my vulnerabilities because I know it will not be misused against me. And compassionately listen without judging. It is a beautiful quality. Not a single word stopping him or guiding him. Let him first open up and express his entire bhava. Therefore his Vishada became yoga, not roga. So as he is trying to empty out his heart, he has come to this Kulakshaya dosha. Anything that which is done which leads to the entire sarvanash of the entire kula. So in that effort he is saying, we did till the 39th shloka. Now the 40th shloka today, repeat after me. Kulakshaye pranashyanti kuladharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulam kritsnam adharmo bhibhavatyuta. Before we get into the meaning and its bhava, since all of you are bringing your books and reading it out loud, few pointers in pronunciation. One, in the Akshara Varnamala, Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga. So there is Alpa Prana and then there is Mahaprana. Alpa Prana, you don't need to use that much of your Prana Shakti. The first syllable is Alpa Prana. The second syllable is Mahaprana. Meaning there you have to give that emphasis. Kula dharma sanat. Dha has to be Mahaprana and it has to be given that emphasis. Second, Kula dharma sanatanaha. So whenever Kula dharmaha, there is a visarga. When visarga is in a sentence, you don't pause to say the visarga. There are several rules, but now that which is applicable here, I'll tell you that. Because it is followed by sa. If it is followed by sa, sha, sha, 3 syllables. That visarga is pronounced halfway as the following sa, sha or sha. Kula dharma sanatanaha. So that visarga is not given emphasis, but the sakara is given emphasis. And then the third one. There is always a confusion, specifically in Andhra, Telangana. Because the sha, which is often pronounced as sya, and the sha is pronounced as sha. So the origin of the sound is sa is made when your tongue is touching the dental inside, the upper dental inside. Sa. The upper portion of the gums, then it is sha. Roll it further into the talu area, then it is sha, usha, shanmukha. It is not shanmukha, it is shanmukha. So when you say strishu, dushtasu, so it is a tongue twister when sha, sa, sha has to be pronounced. So pay attention, and while we are learning it, let us learn it in a right order. That way, mistakes can be avoided. Okay, now coming to the meaning. Kulakshaye pranashyanti kula dharmaha sanatanaha. When kula is completely wiped out, what happens? the Kula Dharma that is being followed also goes away. In the modern day and age, there are various traditions and the connection to our roots are often forgotten. Like for example, whenever there is a big event in family, Griha Pravesha, Vivaha, Upanayana, these are all once in a lifetime kind of events. Before I go out to invite anybody for that particular function, there is a tradition that you go to your Kula Deva or Devi, and give the card or the invitation first to your Kula Devata. What happens when the dilution happens? This tradition and the norm is not just diluted, it is completely forgotten. That many of us don't even know who our Kula Devata is. Kula Devata, Grama Devata, Ishta Devata. Kula, that which is protecting the entire lineage. Grama Devata, that which is protecting the city or town. And then Ishta Devata, that which is in your own house, altar. I know in Maharashtrian and further up north, when the daughter-in-law comes in, before anything else, first she is introduced to the Kula Devata, then Grama Devata. Why? To give a sense of security to the newcomer into the family, that we are what we are, protected, guided by our Ishta Devata, Kula Devata, Grama Devata. That connection is established. And I can go on into various layers of traditions which we have thrown along with the bathwaters. What happens when the Kula Kshaya happens? Along with the Kula Dharma is also lost. And these dharma that for which our ancestors fought against all oppressive environments and stuck to their roots, passed it on generation after generation after generation. I've had the blessed opportunity to visit more than one continent. So when you go into the southern American part, South America, there used to be Aztecs, Mayans, various other civilizations. You can find them today. Do you know where? Museums. Their artifacts are captured in the museums. It took the Spanish to invade into Southern America, and their civilizational values completely wiped out in under 80 years. Oh, today's hot topic. I mean, this particular 40 days. Iran. What was it called earlier? Persia. So what was the tradition that was practiced there? Zoroastrianism. Flame worshippers. Zoroastrianism. It took under 40 years to wipe out that entire tradition of that civilization by the oppressive forces. I can go on with various civilizations, Roman, Greek, Egyptian, that was destroyed. In spite of such destructive forces for more than 400 years of the Islamic invaders, then the Christian invaders, still after practicing for about 30 plus years, I can clearly vouch that the processes that we are practicing, there is not even 0.1% of dilution or corruption. Imagine how much they have fought for and tried maintaining it, passed it on meticulously to the next generation, kept that connect to the roots. In that effort, in that resistance, in that resolve to resist all kinds of oppressive forces, they maintained these traditions. They passed it on generation after generation. One thing that they could not is the meaning and purpose behind the processes were not explained. That is for us to research and find out as this generation. But at least the processes were given intact. And one of the reasons why it could not be wiped out, all other traditions had a volume or a library or something that was keeping it in a physical form, and it could be easily destroyed. The next generation did not get the connect to it. That same technique was applied here, both by the Islamic and the Christians. When you go into Goa, you will see those inquisitions. That the libraries were burnt, Gurukulas were burnt, the Gurus in the Gurukulas were killed, thinking, destroying this, we can, overturn this civilization. What kept us alive? Because our tradition has always been an oral tradition. An oral tradition which is passed on from the Guru to the Sishya, father to the son, father to the child. What would have happened if that Kula itself is destroyed? Kula Dharma gets destroyed. Kula Dharma Sanatana. Dharme Nashte Kulam Kritsnam Adharma Avibhavatyuta. When that Kula Dharma gets destroyed, then adharmic practices becomes the norm of life. My mind is just flooded with so many adharmic practices which we think is norm today. So I had to stop myself in going into that flow, because that would be a topic in itself. And we think it is normal. With the diluted dharmic understanding and implementation in our lives, we have the audacity to evaluate like Bhagavan Krishna and Bhagavan Rama. How could he do that? Do we even have the moral strength to stand up and ask that question? Because the standards of dharma in those days was completely different. Yatha Raja Tatha Praja is what we believe in. We often quote it also. But when the Raja is corrupt, we say at least he is taking care of the policies in the right direction. However his character is, it doesn't matter. Isn't it what we have come down to? And in a democracy, who is selecting that idiot? The majority of idiots. Because that becomes our norm. And when that is were deep. So that is what is being highlighted here. Adharma abhivavatyuta. It penetrates, adharma penetrates and it starts becoming the new norm. Now, when adharma penetrates and that becomes the norm, what happens? Adharmat bhivavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriyaha strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankaraha. Adharma abhibavat Krishna, when that adharma penetrates into the society and that adharma becomes the way of life. Like for example, the welfare of the society is not the king's job, is not the government's job. It is for the individuals of the society to earn and then contribute for the welfare of the society. Remember in our olden days, what is welfare? So in order to understand welfare, the norm has to be understood. And in Bhagavatam, there are, how do you know Kali Yuga has started? So there, the Rishi says, Kali Yuga is that age and time where food is sold and water is sold and education is sold. Food and water is not supposed to be a commodity that has to be sold. In every village there would be a dharma satra. In every town, in the entrance of the town and the exit of the town, you will find these dharma satras, where the community and the community leaders gather to provide for rest area, food and water, wells were free for the people to get the water from. Water to be sold. I went into the Vedanta course. Up at that time, Bisleri water had not become famous. It had not yet been introduced into the market. So when I heard Bhagavatam say that water will be sold, we all had a giggle. We all had a laughter. Why would anybody sell water? I finished my Vedanta course, came out, and I saw everybody carrying a bottle. The new age Kamandalu. Bisleri had become quite famous. Specifically with those people that were visiting India from other countries. Now water being sold, food being sold has become a very common thing. And it has also become a common thing that when we want to have a downtime, when we want to have a good time, family time, what is the planning? Where do we go to eat? घर पे सब मिलके पकाना भूल गए. Where is the good joint to go have this kind of cuisine? Earlier days was there catering. The family members would gather 10 days before the wedding. They would start doing all the masalas and the sambar powder, rasam powder, all these chutney powders and other things. and then 3-4 days before all the chakli and other things are prepared. The entire family jumps in, gets together, does all the cooking and serving. It was a family event. But now we go in as guests, come out as guests. It's no more a family event. And it is not a Pankti Bhojan anymore. The food is kept, पड़ा होगा वहां पे, जिसको जो चाहिए जितना चाहिए ले लो जाओ. That is considered as disrespectful in the earlier days. That food when not served is considered disrespectful. See, even today we have those slight habits. If somebody were to come to our house, you don't say, हाँ वहाँ पे पानी रखा है ले ले. You go get up, get some glass of water or something refreshing because they have come out from the outside from hot sun. When the adharma becomes the norm. I'm just giving few examples. That's why I said my mind suddenly flooded with various layers that can be discussed. What happens when that becomes the standard? The next generation of women growing will not be connected with these traditions. Why is only women picked here? Please don't start. This is all anti-women and that kind of thing. Have a little patience to understand. I had earlier mentioned 2 lectures ago that when Gurudev says, when a man is changed, an individual is changed. When a woman is changed, uplifted, entire family is uplifted. The backbone of the family is the woman. If that woman is connected with the Sanatana Dharma, the rest of the family gets guided. She is the rudder of the family boat. Therefore, the women is being focused here. कृपया क्लास के बाद disclaimer already. See, having lived there for 22 years, I had to walk on eggshells talking these topics. So, दूध का जला छाछ को भी फूक फूक के पीता है. So, I am giving my disclaimer right ahead of time. When the Kulastri gets into the adharmic ways, what happens? Entire family norm changes. Strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankaraha. The next generation will become dhobi ka kutta, na ghar ka na ghat ka. Because there is no clear-cut picture of what is to be practiced or what is not practiced. Because the one that has to instill that direction, himself or herself doesn't have the direction. चलता है कुछ भी कर लो. Anything is okay. And when anything is okay becomes the norm for the next generation, then what will happen? Doing nothing is also okay. Present day, isn't this what is happening? You want to pull your children to learn the right things. They are least interested. Because that who should have been their role model, themselves have no standard. If anything is okay is the standard, what is the message that they are understanding and grasping? Doing nothing also should be okay. See, when I went to US in the early years, I had layers of cultural shock. One such shock was Ramanavami is celebrated on Ramanavami, Janmashtami on Janmashtami. When do they celebrate it there? You are being very liberal with your answer. Sunday is not the answer. Any following convenient Sunday. It could be immediate Sunday or the Sunday within that month. So Navaratris begin. So they plan. During Navaratri I have a field trip or something else. Therefore, 2 weeks before we will have Ras Garba. So 2 weeks before to 2 weeks to 2 months later, there is still Ras Garba going on. Except the day that it has happened, that it has to be observed. Anything is okay is the present. What is the next generation going to stand? Nothing should also be okay. And when the children come back saying nothing is okay, then we are hitting a panic button. Where did we go wrong? As parents, we tried, we were practicing, we were doing whatever was convenient, we were doing. That convenience is what burnt away the standard. Strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankaraha. In Telugu it might be a gali. Sankara jati. Crossbreed. With absolutely no standard of living. So to convince them, I said, when do you, I used to say a joke. I said that a young Yuva Kendra boy married. So after marriage he came to me and said, my wife seems to be very, very picky about me remembering certain dates, wedding anniversary, birth date and such things. Swamiji, tell me a tip, tell me a technique to remember all these dates. It is not my field, but then poor fellow, I had to help. I said, do one thing. The first wedding or birthday or something, make sure that you don't remember. Swamiji, I am asking how to remember. You are saying me not to remember. I said, yes, first one you forget, she will make sure that for the rest of your life you don't forget it. Isn't it? On that day when it is the birthday or wedding anniversary, कुछ नहीं तो एक फूल गोभी का नहीं, flower, some gift, some celebration, not the weekend, not the following convenient weekend, on that very day. When it is that important for our celebrations, how can you postpone for your convenience to some other day? I had to fight with our own Hindus to do the function or the celebration of that Utsava on that very day. Do you understand the fall of our own standard? And if this generation is that fall, the next generation is, there is nothing to fall. Therefore he is saying, Strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankaraha. Absolute hodgepodge of standards where adharma is also considered as standard. Satyameva jayate nandrutam kadachana. Upanishad says it. This is what Yudhishthira tried following his life. Today what do we say? It is okay to lie as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. White lies are okay. Lie is a lie whether you say it standing or lying. For our convenience, how dare you change the standard of it? Not only that, I am changing my standard. With this dirty mindset, I am saying Rama was wrong, Krishna was wrong. अपना चेहरा देख आईने में. Do we have even that moral compass to point fingers at Avatar himself? Am I able to get across? I am saying it with a lot of ping. Now when the compass of a family is the mother, and when the mother itself, the standards are lost, what will happen? He says, Sankaro narakayaiva kulagnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro yesham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. When the substandard adharma, sankaraha, then you don't need to go heaven or hell. Right here, living becomes hell. Dharma is a principle. It doesn't depend on whether you have to agree with it or not. Whether you understand it or not doesn't matter. Whether you believe in it or doesn't matter. It functions because it is the principle. I don't believe there is gravity. Yahan aajao. Whoever says it, that I don't believe. The principle of gravity doesn't depend on your belief system. Even if you do not believe it, it shall function. Dharma is that principle. Therefore, when we are not living the life of dharma, substandard of dharma, then there is no waiting period to go to heaven or hell. That hell is right here. Naraka yaiva patanti pitaraha hesham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. This we see in today's generation. When our ancestors, our parents, our loved ones die, every month there is a masika, an observation. And then yearly after that there is Shraddha. What is the root word of Shraddha? That which is done with Shraddha. I was still a brahmachari in Vijayawada. In those days standard, their house was like a palace. So that businessman invited me to their house. Imagine, I am talking about 25 years ago. That fellow had a garden on the second floor. A full-fledged garden with lawn and trees and flower plants, not pots, plants planted on the second floor. And on the third floor is their kitchen and dining. So in the second floor we were having a discussion. So as we were discussing, one of the topics was this Pitru Karma, Shraddha Karma, and very intelligently he said, the lady of the house from the third floor called upon us saying, food is ready to be served, please come. And this gentleman, this businessman says, serve it. Swamiji believes in Shraddha Karma. He should be able to eat it from here. If the ancestors can eat the pinda staying in the other loka, he should also be able to eat it from here. So I said, luckily I knew his children were already, one in London and the other one in Canada. I said, how often do your children talk to you? So he said, not that very often, but monthly once they do call. So I had a big smile on my face. They do call for their bank account to be replenished. monthly, once they call. So I said, explain to me what is the process of sending this money. Do you have somebody carry this money round flight, wherein they stop at London, they go to Canada and then drop that money and then come back? And he was giggling. He said, no, Swamiji, we have the bank transfer system. That I go take the money, deposit in my account, that much value worth in their currencies it is deposited. You mean to say that the money that which you are giving to the bank is here only? I said, yes, that physical money is here, but the worth of it is going there. When I said, then he knew where I was questioning it. Then he was also like, I set a trap for him, and in his asking this arbitrary question, I am falling trap to my own answers. I said, when your value of money that which you are giving physically is here, but the value of it is reaching somewhere else, thousands of miles away, can that energy that which is represented by that food that which you are offering here not go to the other worlds? I know the transfer agency. I said, that is called fire. The food that is offered is not yesterday's food that which is left. अरे बचा था, पिंड करना है, पिंड में वो डाल देते हैं. No. What is it that you are doing? Freshly cooked warm food is done into the balls and you offer it 3 generations. Pita, Pitamaha, Parapitamaha. That is your responsibility. Why? Whatever you are today is because of their hard work, their resilience, that I am what I am today. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent is your opinion. You are where you are because of their sacrifices and grand efforts. Now such people who say, I don't believe in all of these, foolishly, that which is not even our tradition, it belongs to another civilization. They have started celebrating here in these streets. Halloween. What the heck is Halloween then? It is the Spanish and the Mexican culture to remember their ancestors as an offering, and they select one particular day. They are happy doing their tradition. But our tradition, what happens? Goes for a toss because we have been told that is primitive. We have been told that it is meaningless. We have been told that it is blind belief. So, lupta pindodaka kriyaha patanti pitaraha esham. The ancestors are not paid respect, and the entire ihaloka and paraloka both get destroyed. Continuing, because all of this is a grand narrative that Arjuna is building. Krishna is like waiting for it. ये किधर ले जाकर कनेक्ट करने वाला है? Where are you taking for the connection? दोषैरेतैर्कुलघ्नानां वर्णसंकरकारकैः उत्स्याद्यन्ते जातिधर्माः कुलधर्माश्च शाश्वताः. दोषैः एतैः kula, jati, varna, everything gets destroyed. And when all of this gets destroyed, the very fabric of society, fabric of civilization completely gets rotten. When adharma itself becomes your standard of life and living and thinking, what will be the experience? See, when you have to make idli, you have to soak the dal, soak the rice, blend it, mix it, and then keep it in a warm place for it to ferment. And the next day that you open and you disappointedly look at it and say, "Arey, jalebi kahan hai?" The baseline of what you have put as input is different, and the output you are expecting completely a different parallel. Frustration is ours. The input is adharmic standpoint, the expectation is the trupti of dharmic standpoint. It will not be ever a possibility to reach to that. All the principles that keep the fabric of society together gets broken. Those that had the expertise in that particular jati, that jati itself is vilupta. Those kinds of things you don't find it anymore in availability. Why? The fabric itself is completely deteriorated. The society goes for a valueless, moralless existence. Chaos, corruption, plundering, looting becomes the norm of life. So therefore Krishna, Utsannakula dharmanam Manushyanam janardana Narake niyatam vasaha Bhavatityanu. So in your books there is no print mistake. It has to be Narake niyatam vaso. But because of the 8th syllable we do the stop, pause. So there we have to apply sandhi vichheda. Therefore the O becomes aha. So instead of vaso, you have to read it as vasaha. Now coming to Utsanna Kuladharmanam Manushyanam Janardana. Once that dharma becomes substandard, adharmic life becomes the standard, then Narake Aniyatam Vasaha. Living in hell becomes a reality. Isn't that what we experience out of frustration? Where should the change happen? Each individual takes up the onus to find that moral compass, to find that value system, to find the dharmic ways of life, reinstill it at individual level. Then as a collective, when we get together, the texture of society is far higher. One of the basic ideas with which Puja Gurudev left the Himalayas and came to the plains was to re-educate the society of these dharmic values so that the society can find an uplifting experience. That this wisdom is not something which should be caged in Himalayas alone. Every single individual with a sane head on their shoulders should be introduced to this knowledge so that they start carving their own balance for themselves. Then collectively when we stand in that unity, there is an upliftment. Otherwise, Narake Aniyatam Vasaha. See, I go once a month to an ashram outskirts of Vijayawada, Chinmaya Sitaram ashram. I can tell you, the air that we breathe, how polluted is here in comparison to that. You feel that heaviness while even breathing. Maybe you don't feel it because when you go for that change, the ease of breathing when it happens, you see, oh boy, how much am I struggling there to even breathe? Naraka doesn't mean that it has to be Kumbi Paka Naraka and all these various 90 plus different kinds of Naraka described in Garuda Purana. If the air that we breathe is polluted, the food that we eat is polluted, what else is Naraka? I seldom watch news, but whenever I watch, the items that come to what I see is in where is this? Sanat Nagar. 14,000 kilos of fake paneer. Somewhere else, something else. If the food we eat is corrupted, the air that we breathe is polluted, the water that we drink is laced with some chemicals, isn't that Naraka? And there seems to be no end to it. Aniyatam Vasaha. Bhavatityanu. And Arjuna says, hey Bhagavan, we would have caused all of this imbalance. All the papa for having created that imbalance is on us, is on our shoulders. So he continues, he says, Aho batamahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam yadrajya sukhalobhena hantum svajana mudyataha. Aho bata mahat papam. In today's language, if I had to translate that sentence of Arjuna, oh my God, what horrible papa, Krishna! Aho bata mahat papam. What kind of life we would have created? We would have developed, vyavasita developed, just because of Rajya Sukha Lobha, for the greed of Rajya and the Sukha thereof. We would have been destroying the very fabric of Dharma. Who is he speaking to? The one who is trying to establish Dharma. Here sometimes we in our own Shraddha have a confusion. Let me touch upon that aspect as well. Because when we read Bhagavatam, Bhagavan Krishna should not have done like this. Have you heard people talk about? Have you yourself also silently felt about? Avatara is Ishvara Vyakta Purusha. That Ishvara who is coming into this form. Ishvara, his one of the primary things is Karma Phala Data. He is the one that because of whose touch or blessings each one of us gets our due, whatever we have sown as karma. That is what we will reap. Now to understand this, let me give you an example. When you exit from this road into the main road outside, usually you have to be very careful, because though it is one way, everybody who is driving thinks their way is that one way. Meaning, traffic is coming and going from all directions. It's a chaos. But supposing there is some kind of a accident and the police themselves divide the road which is supposed to be one way, divide it into two, so that the traffic eases out. From our standpoint, that one way being used in the wrong way, is it right or wrong? If you and I do it, it is definitely wrong. But for the totality to benefit out of that congestion, if for a temporariness that one way is turned into a two-way system, by that who is the law implementer, is it right or wrong? Easily that you have said it as right. Try evaluating Krishna's job as an avatar as that law implementer. Do not evaluate him from the standpoint of a mere mortal like anybody that we judge across. To judge अपनी हैसियत तो नहीं है, पर if you do want to understand it from that standpoint of law implementer as that Ishvara, then you will find that it is very easy to understand Krishna. Because in the words of that Krishna, if we do not have Shraddha, what will Bhagavad Gita have an impact on us? How can that Dharma take roots? So here Arjuna is trying to message to Bhagavan Krishna, that very Dharmatma who has come to implement the law, Dharma, saying, we would have destroyed Dharma. Bhagavan Krishna must have been thinking, Arjuna, you must take a profession of being a lawyer. You are presenting your case with absolute wrong baseline with a perfect logic. Therefore Bhagavan Krishna, I have come to this conclusion. What is the conclusion? Yadi mam apratikaram ashastram shastrapanayah dhartarashtrarane hanyuhu tanme kshemataram bhavet. As soon as this sentence must have been said, do you know who would have been the happiest person listening to this statement of Arjuna? Dhritarashtra. This is exactly what I had planned. I wanted this Arjuna to get completely psychologically, morally destroyed, and it happened. What is he saying? Yadi mam apratikaram, without any insinuation from my side, without even holding my astra shastra. Ashastram, not holding any astra shastra in hand. Such one, मुझ इस निहत्ते को, क्या डायलॉग बाजी है अर्जुन का, मुझ इस निहत्ते को अगर किसी ने शस्त्र उठाकर भी प्रहार किया तो मैं अपने जान न्यौछावर कर दूंगा उसको. हे राम, even in this kind of a psychologically fallen state, डायलॉग बाजी कम नहीं करता ये. Ashastram, those who are coming with the shastra. In those days, dharma yuddha meant that if your opponent lost a sword or something to fight with, either you give up the weapon that you are having, throw it aside and get to their level up, and then do a mushti yuddha, as a wrestling or boxing, mushti yuddha, or share your weapon with them, level them up and then fight with them. You cannot attack a person that is not having a weapon in their hand. Therefore, Abhimanyu's death is the most horrifying death on that battlefield. He had lost his weapon. His ratha, his horses were wounded. So technically, one of them should have thrown a sword to Abhimanyu and then challenge him for war. But instead, Karna is the one that suggests, let us round him up and each one finish him off. Upon the design of Karna, because there is a disease in this society, Karna is poor fellow, caught up in the situation. Otherwise, he is a nice fellow. That one movie of N.T. Ramarao, DVSK, Dana, Veera, Sura, Duratma. Everything that was designed as the most horrifying thing done by Duryodhana or Dushyasana was planned by Karna. The suggestion to pull Draupadi out into that court, whose brilliant idea was it? Karna. Duryodhana had a lot of negative character, but upper chamber was not that vibrant. Who filled that upper chamber with these kinds of malicious ideas? Karna. It was Karna's plan to round him up and kill him right then and there, because if you leave him, he is going to be a menace. Single-handedly, he has defeated each one of us. Now, if we have to defeat him, together we have to kill him right now. Upon that suggestion, the first strike was done by Shakuni. But who was the designer? Karna. Technically, in that Dharma Yuddha, what should have happened? That Abhimanyu should have been given a weapon, or the one who was challenging him should have dropped the weapon and gone on hand to hand. So that Dharma Yuddha point he is making here. He is saying, even if I do not have any Astra Shastra and somebody wishes to come and kill me, I would invite such death rather than winning this war. So Sanjaya says to Dhritarashtra. See, when you are reading scriptures, here there is not much confusion. When you read Bhagavatam, when you read Mahabharata, even as a listener, you have to be at par with the speaker. Because there will be like the story where, this king asked the question to his minister. The minister says there was such incident that happened where Maitreya Rishi was asked the same question by this king. Maitreya Rishi in his explanation is telling about the Manu and some other incident. And Manu is being instructed by Brahmaji. So when the conversation is happening, so thus Maitreya said, you are like, ye Maitreya beech mein kahan se aaya? You have to be mapping it in your head and keeping the storyline in place. So here when Sanjaya is speaking, then immediately you should map. He is speaking to who? Dhritarashtra. Eva muktva Arjuna sankhe rathopastha upavishat Visrujya sasharam chapam shoka samvigna manasaha. Hey Dhritarashtra, yes, I understand the smile on your face. Your plan, your scheme, your deception worked like a charm on Arjuna. He fell on that ratha, dropping his bow and arrow, his astra shastra, shoka samvigna manasaha, completely enveloped in the narrative that which you sent through me to the Pandavas. He was the only one that took the bait, completely got drenched in it, and in that sorrow, weeping, that Arjuna fell down on that Ratha after having said these many words to Bhagavan Krishna. Now Dhritarashtra must be thinking, वही तो मैं कहूँ, how can I plan and that not work out? It did work, but then Arjuna seems to be completely refined. There is no such confusion on the 9th day when the 10th day the story was being told to him. What happened? So that starts in the second chapter, which we will be doing next month, and we have taken your numbers and addresses. We will reach out to you and send you the flyers so that you can participate in the second chapter. Second chapter and the 18th chapter are the longest chapters of Bhagavad Gita. The second chapter has 72 shlokas. So we might be dividing it into at least two parts. So the first part we will see next week. So mark and wait for the next month for the second chapter to begin, which is where the actual message of Bhagavan Krishna to repair this mindset of Arjuna starts. Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gītāsu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyāyām Yoga Shastre Shri Krishnārjuna Samvade Sankhya Yogo Nama Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamodhyaya. I started saying that second chapter and my mind got. Anyway, so we finished going through the backdrop of Arjuna's mindset, the various schemes and mind games that were played, and to repair that, how does Bhagavan Krishna answer to these mindsets of Arjuna? It is not just Arjuna's mindset, it is each one of ours mindset. Any situation, we always have this, karu, nahi karu, chodu. And for most of us, the easy solution would be, I leave everything and go away. Sab chhod chhad ke main bhag jaunga. Arjuna is similar in that mindset. So let us see how that repair does help Arjuna, and through Arjuna, how it helps us all. We will continue. Now, as we conclude, we will have the Arati first. After the Arati is done, I will come back here, and then you can bring your these envelopes that were given to you. Hopefully you have written down your name, phone number and your address, and then you drop it into that box. I will be giving you a Yajna Prasada. The Prasada that I will be giving is food for thought. The Prasada that you will be getting outside is thought of food. So don't confuse between this Prasada and that Prasada. First take this and then go outside for that Prasada. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutangamaya Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. As I had announced yesterday, every Saturday and Sunday when I am here in town, we will be having meditation class from 6:30 to 7:30, and then Vedic chanting class from 8 to 9. So today it had started. So we have just introduced. If you want to join, please join. Downstairs there is the meditation hall. So we will be having meditation session there. Here on the upstairs we will have the Vedic chanting class. Om Shanti.